Welcome to Born to be a Sports Agent, where I deliver legal and contract insight for sports professionals navigating hiring, firing, injury, and representation. Welcome to Born to be a Sports Agent, the podcast where I'm going to pull back the curtain on sports law, recruiting, and everything in between. Today's episode is a little different and one I think a lot of you can relate to. I'm joined here by a parent of a prospective college athlete who's currently being recruited. We're keeping this conversation completely anonymous because the focus isn't on who they are, it's on the questions they're asking. And trust me, these are the same questions almost every parent has during the recruiting process. Things like, what should we be asking a coach? How do we know if an offer is real? How do we protect our athlete while still giving them opportunities? Etc. So I'm here with a parent. And so what's your first question?
Sure. Well, this journey, so vulnerable, right? We're just vulnerable in this journey, and you don't know what you don't know. So I guess my first question is, is it important to get an agent?
An agent. Okay, well that's a really good question, and it's a complicated question because it depends on a lot of factors. But I tell parents the way this works, there's three different pockets of things going on in the NIL space. There's rev share money, which has been mandated by the courts, which is the House versus the NCAA settlement. And I've done several podcasts on this if you want to go back and listen to them, explaining the House case and understanding that how that as a parent impacts your kid. So revenue share is every single athletic department can share revenue with a student athlete. It is maxed up to like $20 million. 75% is being shared with football, and then 20% is men's and women's basketball, and 5% is the rest. And that is the amount they're allowed to allocate, and there is like a ceiling on that. So I don't think that a student athlete needs anybody to help them with the rev share part, because the rev share part, depending on your position, they probably have already predetermined that a high school player at this position is going to be worth this much money, and this is how much rev share we have. And not every single campus is going to have $20 million. Okay. They
Right.
might have $2 million. They might have all 20 million, right? Like at an SEC school. They might have no rev share money. Okay. So there's different, so I don't think that you need representation for rev share money. However, depending on what they're having your son or daughter sign, I think you need some legal representation to review the contract. And what I mean by that is most schools are giving student athletes contracts related to this rev share amount. Okay, so let's say they're going to give your kid $100,000. Well, it's not really $100,000 because it's usually like $25,000 a year over a 5-year period. They're not handing anybody $100,000. They also are probably going to tie it into you being a student athlete there, you being eligible there, meaning you're going to school and not flunking out, that you are participating in practices. Some schools have even tied their rev share money to. There was somebody who was fining student athletes. There was a school that was doing that. So I would want whatever the details of that contract are that have to do with rev share money. If your son or daughter is receiving rev share money, I would want a lawyer, okay, to read the contract. The
Great.
other thing is scholarships. I would also want somebody to read the scholarship, letter of intent to see what the scholarship at school is. Is it guaranteed all 4 years? Is it only a 1-year deal? Is it by semester? Because I have noticed since the rev share stuff, because kids can transfer, there's been a lot of different policies and procedures that universities have created. Okay. And I think it would be hard for a parent to navigate all that unless they have been inside an athletics department. The other thing is leagues have also created standard like contracts that that league's supposed to use, and I would want a lawyer to read that as well. So, do I think they need an agent, so to speak, to get the money? No, I think they need a lawyer to read the details in the contracts. It's just
Okay.
like a real estate deal. You need to read the fine print, right? What's
Right.
included in the deal? What's not included in the deal? It's the same kind of thing. Okay.
Okay.
So, but as far as like rev share money, they don't need somebody to help them get more money. Okay. Now there's the second part of NIL money. There's, I'm going to basically build up my social media, which is something, another question that you were wondering about. And I'm going to have so many followers. I'm going to post all the time. I have a brand, and I'm going to align my brand with another brand. And I need somebody to go out and hustle brands to get true NIL money, that's what NIL was supposed to be from the beginning, by the way. Was it was
Interesting.
supposed to be that I go and I say to Nike, I have a million followers on my social media. I am a women's basketball player, and I play at, let's say, UCLA, and I really think I think your brand aligns with me, and I'm just wondering what kind of a deal you'll give me. So, and then maybe that brand agrees, okay, I will pay you, $10,000 to do 10 tweets a year, right? Then there's another contract that needs to be reviewed, right? Is it
Hmm.
an exclusive deal? You don't want exclusive deals. You want to be open to able to get other deals. Maybe you like Nike now, and then later you like Under Armour, or you go to a school and you have a deal with Nike and they're an Under Armour school. That could be a conflict. Okay. Um, just all those details. Again, I'm back to people need an attorney, not necessarily an agent, so to speak. Now, do you need somebody to hustle deals? Yeah, that's a lot of work. Okay. But if somebody's hustling deals for you, you're going to expect to pay 20% to that person. Okay, that's
Right.
another, because that's kind of standard for endorsement deals, 10 to 20%. Hustling deals is a lot of work. They're not as big a deals, so they're going to take a higher amount. So if you have a large social media following and you have a brand and you want to align with the brand, then you might need somebody to hustle deals. But again, you need somebody to look at the contracts. The third part, which is the real murky area that a lot of parents are dealing with, is this third party collective situation. Okay. So those would be boosters. Boosters cannot do anything to entice somebody to come to school there. Okay. Most schools, actually, after the House case, have moved their collectives in house and they're not doing it anymore. Some schools still are. Okay, because they don't have enough money, so they need the collective. But that collective person is going to have a separate deal with your student athlete and the student athlete, and that's another contract that needs to be reviewed. What they're doing is they're pooling a group of student athletes, name, image, and likeness, as a collective. They're using their name, image, and likeness to pitch to different brands in that community, and they're paying the student athlete a certain amount of money. So again, I'm back to the contracts. I think, I mean, and I really think the more important thing here is don't hire somebody who's not an attorney. Let's say you hire a sports agent. Why? So they can 20% of all this and they don't know how to read a contract? It's scary. Okay. That's one of the issues I have, even with NFL players, with college players. Do not hire non-attorneys to do this. That's not smart.
Mhm.
It's
You'd
actually,
still end up needing an attorney if you hired an agent.
yeah, and there's plenty of people that are agents that are attorneys. Okay, so
Mhm.
that are sports attorneys. I also, I'm an insider. My husband's a college football coach. My dad's a college football coach. And I represent ADs and media. I really understand the inside. I also represent NFL players, so I understand the inside of all of those things. Very few people are in well, nobody's in my situation, honestly.
Okay.
So I would also make sure they're connected. Now, the fourth part of all this, and I think this is what a lot of how people are using agents, which is where I think is scary, is, let's say you're at a school and you decide to transfer, and then they want you to pitch them to different schools. This has really hurt a lot of kids because the agent isn't being truthful and doesn't understand the market. Okay. And they're
Yeah.
taking a lot of money because they're pitching them. And it's the same thing with high school kids. Another thing an agent could do is pitch you to different schools. Well, I I've seen a lot of not truthful situations happen, meaning the agent isn't being truthful with the kid or the parents about what's being offered. Because the thing about universities and different sports, every single school has different needs. And what I mean by that, if I'll just give you an example of like kickers, punters, and snappers. Let's say they have a 2-year starter at the kicker position who's really good, who's projected to be a draft pick, and they don't have a scholarship for a kicker. They don't need a kicker. They're not even recruiting a kicker. So
Right.
you could have some agent telling you, well, I'm going to pitch to that school because that's where you want to go. But they don't even have a scholarship for that position because they don't need one for that class, right?
Right. Right.
So now that doesn't mean they're not maybe evaluating those kids that are in that class, but they don't have a scholarship for them. And they might not have a walk-on spot either. That's the other thing. Each school under the House case, at least for football, has only so many spots, and each sport is the same way. Okay.
Mm.
So there's four different things. You can see where there's four different things going on, and that's why parents are confused.
Right.
Okay.
Well, you've covered things that I never even thought of, so I appreciate that. Um,
Yes.
I
So those are, and then there's a new executive order, and which is, save college sports, which is actually going to hurt athletes. Because if people really follow that, I don't know if they are or are not, because it just came out like within the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I have read through the whole executive order, and I've been following the SCORE Act, which is what they're trying to implement. But one of the things they're proposing is that over a 5-year, that a student athlete can only can play through a 5-year period, and they can only transfer one time.
Oh, interesting.
So if that happens, um, if this really goes through, if Congress really passes something, if the NCAA really follows the executive order, if these leagues follow the order, there's many other things in it. But how it could impact a high school kid is that all of a sudden you can only transfer once. So you're going to have leverage one time. Right now, you can transfer every year during the transfer portal window, right?
Okay.
So that if and that's why I'm saying that area is evolving constantly. It's actually why I have a podcast, because I'll say, okay, again, there's been so much going on in this space since the first legislation was actually in California, and it was right before 2020. I mean, it was so much has changed just in that time period, and it's been very fluid, and universities don't know how to deal with it because
Yeah.
they're not used to this much change. And so it's hard for parents to navigate, it's hard for universities to navigate, it's hard for coaches to navigate because they keep changing the rules.
Yes.
And it's because they
And
get sued and lose, but that's really what happens.
and there's that.
And then there's that. Yeah. So,
Yes.
anyways, so thanks for listening to Born to Be a Sports Agent, where we discuss relevant legal issues, contract issues, and discuss representation for everyone in sports. This is Jill McBride Baxter, and my core values are protection, advocacy, and trust. If you are looking for representation and you need someone to take you where you can't take yourself, please go to my website at jillmcbridebaxter.com or email me at jillbaxter@me.com and set up a meeting for a free consultation. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic week and good luck in sports. Think about whether or not
You need someone who can take you where you can't take yourself. Please set a meeting with me to see if we can have a future together to impact your future resume. So go to jillmcbridebaxter.com or email me at jillbaxter@me.com and I will send you a link to set a meeting. Remember, it doesn't matter what the plan is, as long as you have one. I'm about 3 things: protection, advocacy, and trust. Have a fantastic day.